Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining me today. As we continue, it's Thin Lizzy Thursday with Thin Lizzy's seventh album, their second release from 1976, Johnny the Fox. This would be the last album to feature the classic Thin Lizzy lineup in full. We got fantastic artwork here from Jim Fitzpatrick. Let's talk about who was on this album. Before we get into that, this was released on Vertigo Records, and it was released on Mercury and Polygram here in the United States. John Alcock produced this just as he did Jailbreak. He did a marvelous job, although this is a different kind of production, which I will go into shortly. We have Phil Lynott, main songwriter, lead vocals, acoustic guitar, bass guitar. Brian Downey, drums and percussion. Scott Gorham, lead and rhythm guitars. Brian Robertson, lead and rhythm guitars. Also featured on this album, Fiacra Trench on brass and string arrangements. You have heard Fiacra Trench's work before. If you've heard I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats, Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues, which is now a very popular Christmas song, Have I Told You Lately by Van Morrison, those arrangements in brass, string, or both were done by Fiacra Trench. He's also featured on other songs by Van Morrison, as well as Sinead O'Connor, as well as Phil Lynott solo albums. We have Phil Collins on percussion, of course, from Genesis, shortly at Brand X, and we have Kim Beacon on backing vocals. Let's get into the songs. The opener is Johnny. This was originally going to be a loose concept album, but eventually they didn't go in that direction. Thus the song Johnny here. We have excellent mix of riffs and chords on this. Brian Downey's drum fills on here after the choruses are excellent. What a kick-ass chorus. Very simple and effective. It's all right to lose your heart, but never lose your head. The bass is way up in the mix on this album. That's one thing you really hear on this album compared to Jailbreak. Jailbreak, the guitar is really up in the mix. Here, you really hear the bass. You really hear how excellent a bass player Phil Lynott was. This is a fantastic opener. Rocky. Musically, this song rips. The unison guitars on here are wonderful. Again, we have some great drum fills. The bass lines under those riffs during the verses are excellent. We got a nice musical bridge before that wild solo comes in from Brian. Another kick-ass track. Borderline. On here, when you hear songs like this, we hear the diversity. This is a tearjerker ballad, but it's got a lot of drama on it, not like your typical ballad. It's a breakup song. Phil's delivery on the vocals on here is wonderful. It's very subdued and solemn. Nice guitar work on here. Nice use of space on this track, too. Very dramatic, strong track. Next two songs I'm going to talk about are two of my favorite songs by Thin Lizzy. Don't Believe a Word was the single. It did well in the UK. It didn't chart here in the States. This was originally a slow blues track that Phil wrote, but after Brian Robertson exhibited that he wasn't happy with this, Phil wasn't happy about that. And then what Brian Downey and Brian Robertson would do is they would turn us into a heavy shuffle. And then when Phil heard the new version, he liked it, and they kept that on the album, although Phil still gets the sole writing credits. But what a fantastic single. 2 minutes and 18 seconds, just like those classic singles from the 60s, but this has more menace than any of those. Yet it has this great sense of melody to it as well. Great guitar solo on here. Bridge that just kicks your ass. Excellent. Love this song. As much as I love the next one, Fool's Gold, which starts with this spoken word intro by Phil, where the guitars are playing something very ominous in the background. It's kind of a prelude to what the song is about. It's about families going through the Irish potato famine from 1845 to 1852, and then making it to America, traveling to America to make a better life. Rhythmically, this is excellent. What a wonderful lyric on here. The unison guitars on here are spectacular. Phil's delivery is wonderful. It's just very joyous, very melodic. One of their most underrated songs. The wordplay on this is wonderful. Excellent track. Should have been the single. Speak of some diversity, we get to Johnny the Fox meets Jimmy the Weed, and this is where you really hear Phil and Brian Downey shine as a rhythm section. And you hear that great sense of space and restraints from Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. What they're playing in here, it's just they're playing more, adding the color. Of course, they're putting in some great solos on this as well, particularly during the fade out. Funky as hell. This is a kick-ass track. And Phil's bass lines are really, really strong. Excellent. Old Flame plays like a ballad lyrically, joyous musically. The unison guitars on here are probably as strong as they are throughout the album. I mean, they're damn near beautiful. They are excellent. Phil's vocal on here, wonderful. Again, it's like a lost love song on this, but musically it's joyous to the point where you just want to go out and just sing it. Excellent. Massacre, heavy, like Judas Priest heavy from 76, but faster tempo. Wicked. Later covered by Iron Maiden as the B-side to their Can I Play with Madness single. Brian Downey's drumming on this is absolutely killer. The riffs on here, fantastic. Lots of echo on Phil's vocals. This is 1976. We're going to hear a lot of echo on the vocals then. But this song just rips. This sounds amazing on here, just like it did on their 1978 live album, Live and Dangerous. Fantastic track. Now we get to the third song, which you can call a ballad, Sweet Marie, one of my favorite Thin Lizzy ballads. Everything on this works very well. Fiacre Trench's string arrangements really add a lot of class, particularly in that third verse. And in the bridge as well. The bridge on here, again, wonderful. This is a tearjerker, very passionate vocal by Phil. The guitars, again, just add the right amount of color. Excellent solo on here. Getting the most out of every note on that solo. This is, when you think of the diversity of Thin Lizzy, you hear a song like this coming after something that just tears your head off like Massacre, just shows you how talented the band was and what a wonderful songwriter Phil Lynott was. Boogie Woogie Dance, another one of those drug songs that Phil would write on all of his albums from this point forward. This is, again, ripping heavy metal. Great use of wordplay. The analogies in here are fantastic. It's just a smorgasbord of riffs, and this is just killer. Everybody on this shines, but it is wicked. There's no let up on this, no sense of space, no drama at all. This is just a kick-ass heavy metal closer. So with this album, as I mentioned before, this is not as immediate as Jailbreak is. Jailbreak is very immediate, very anthemic. These songs will take a few listens to grow on you, but they reap tremendous rewards. Very musically rich, just like the last several albums that I've talked about in this series. So this is Johnny the Fox from 1976. What do you think of this album? Do you think this is just as strong as Jailbreak or even stronger than Jailbreak? Do you like the unison guitar lines on here, the diversity musically, the ballads on here, Bill's vocals on here? Does Brian Downey shine like the sun again on the drums or what? Please let me know in the comments. And please join me next week, Thursday, November 21, when we continue. It's Thin Lizzy Thursday, when I review their their eighth album from 1977, Bad Reputation. Just to give you some programming notes, the Accept Up to the Limit series continues on my friend John Klaus's channel, My Music Corner, where we discuss 1996 album from Accept called Predator. That is out now. It debuted last night on November 13th. We got Jake Knott from State Farm joining us. We had a excellent discussion. Please also check out Jake Knott from State Farm's channel. He has a series going right now, a weekly series called Megadeth Monday, which I was privileged to be part of on Monday, November 11, as Jake and I discuss Megadeth's fantastic fourth album, Rust in Peace from 1990. Later on today, on Grant's Rock Warehouse, I am recording this November 14, 2024. Join us at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live as we continue the One and Done series on my friend Grant Arthur's channel, Grant's Rock Warehouse. We will talk about the only album from HSAS, Sammy Hagar, Neil Schon, Kenny Aronson, Michael Shreve. The album Through the Fire, with the fantastic opening track, Top of the Rock. Excellent album. It's going to be a privilege to review this one again because I reviewed it 2 years ago on The Contrarians. So, until I see you again, do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.